Hi authors, editors, and readers. My name is Corey. I'm a part-time freelance fiction editor and a full-time in-house copy editor, and this is my channel, Wisecracks and Paperbacks. On this channel, I'm going to be making content specifically for authors, both traditional and indie, on how to write better, how to get your books published, just kind of tips and tricks of the trade. And for anyone else who, like me, was a student wanting to go into publishing but didn't really know anything about it, I'm going to be giving some insider knowledge of the industry just for anyone who might be interested. And I'll also post some content for readers, like book reviews and new releases coming out. But to kick off my first video, I thought it would be fitting to introduce myself a little bit just by talking about how I got a job in publishing and how you might be able to do that as well. So stick around to hear my story and my advice on how to get a job in publishing. My very first tip for anyone wanting to get into publishing is don't pursue your goals in secret. The publishing industry is highly competitive, so the people who succeed in it are really passionate about it. It's a small industry and there aren't a lot of jobs here. So nothing is going to happen on its own. If you really want it, you have to really want it and be passionate about it. I knew coming into college that I wanted to be an editor, so I kind of geared my entire college experience around that goal. I chose professional writing as my major because the classes were more aligned with that business professional side of writing and communicating versus like general English majors, which were a lot about literature. I also joined the literary magazine on campus my freshman year, and by my senior year, I was the editor-in-chief. And that was one thing that I really intentionally chose. I didn't choose a newspaper, I didn't choose any sort of book club or anything like that because I didn't want to be getting myself stuck into the writing style of news and like APA style, which is very different from kind of fiction writing. So I chose a literary magazine because it felt more creative and it felt more of a wide experience to me and a different one that not everyone would have. I also helped with the newsletter for the English department my sophomore year, and I actually kind of did everything at first. I wrote for it, I designed it, I was the editor, and then eventually we kind of grew. We had different students writing, so I could just be more of a sole editor. But the point of this is that I was very intentional about what I did to reach this goal, and I let everybody know that this is what I wanted to do. Anytime someone said, "What are you gonna do with an English major?" I had an answer for them, and I told my professors, I told fellow students, I told everybody this is what I wanted to do. And because I was so outspoken about my goals, the people around me really helped me to achieve them. Like, people are rooting for you, your professors are rooting for you. They will give you opportunities to help you achieve your goals. And if you're doing something in secret, it is so easy to just give up when it gets hard or it seems like it's not going to happen. But by telling people, these are my goals, this is what I'm working towards, it gives you accountability and it also gives you support to achieve those goals. So that's my very first tip. Don't pursue your goals in secret. And it actually leads right into my second tip. And again, this is a pretty universal one, but it is use your connections. And I know everybody says this, it's huge in any career, in any industry, but publishing is one where connections can get you so far, and a lot of times it's really hard to even get a foot in the door unless you have that connection. And I want to emphasize here that I don't just mean connections with people who are higher up than you. It doesn't just have to be like the CEO of the company that you interned for. It can be people around you, your students, fellow students, professors, people who maybe you've seen on LinkedIn have gotten an internship that you wanted to get. Like, it can be your peers as well as those above you to make those connections, because first of all, you never know where someone's gonna end up. That person that you had in your class might just very well work at the company you wanna work for in 10 years. And two, having someone who is doing what you want to do gives you that motivation and helps you to emulate kind of what they're doing and use that advice and again be that support system. So here's a little example. My very first editing job was actually for a fellow student in the English department who I went to school with, and she had written a book and was working on her second book in the series, and I reached out and I was like, I want to be an editor. Please take a chance on me and let me edit your book. And it was probably one of the best college experiences I had, especially happening right before I graduated, because I could tell people when I was interviewing that I had edited a book, I'd worked with an author, and we worked really closely on developing the story. So it was a lot of back and forth, it was a lot of communication and kind of learning what that process might look like. And I just want to give a shout out to Danielle because her second book just came out a couple of months ago. That's the one that I worked on. So if you like YA dystopian and you kind of want that nostalgia back from childhood and middle school, go check out her series Eminence. The second book, Irreverence, just came out, and I'll leave a link in the bio. And here's another example of using your connections. So when I was working for the newsletter for the English department, I interviewed a Valpo alum who works at the company I work at now. At the time, obviously, I was a student. And I had told her what I wanted to do. She mentioned that they do a lot of internships. And so I applied to one of those internships. And when I did apply, I was able to contact her, say, hey, I applied, just wanted to let you know if you could kind of put a good word in for me or give me any advice. And I did end up getting that internship, and now I work there full time. So that was a direct correlation based on a connection that I had. It may feel a little bit unfair to have some of those advantages and connections, but I promise you that every company does this, every industry does this, and you should not feel ashamed for using a connection to get your foot in the door. The people that you know create the opportunity, and then you prove that you deserved it by taking it and running with it and doing your absolute best. And I want to give one more shout out and one more example of this because honestly, this tip was the most influential on my personal story. My connections really got me in there and really helped me build my resume. So another example, an alumna from my school reached out to the English department, and she actually is a full-time freelance fiction editor, and she needed an assistant just to help with some behind-the-scenes stuff. And because I was so outspoken about what I wanted to do, again, these first two tips are really connected. Because I was so outspoken about what I wanted to do, my professors instantly thought of me when she reached out and gave me that opportunity before even asking other students. But I learned so much from her, from how she ran her business and how she interacted with her clients. So I am super grateful for that experience to be a fly on the wall and kind of see how she did things. So those are my first two tips. The first one, don't pursue your goals in secret. And the second one, use your connections. And here is my very last tip, learn on your own time. This last piece of advice is probably the most actionable. So if you want something that you can do, a step you can take every day, it is this one. Publishing is notoriously kind of a mysterious industry. It's kind of like you don't really know what's going on unless you're in it. You don't fully know the process unless you're in it. And at least that's how I felt when I was in college, fully knowing this is what I wanted to do, but not really having a good sense of what that meant or what that would look like day to day. So doing whatever you can to learn about this job that you aspire to have is actually going to be a huge benefit to you in not only feeling more confident in it, but also once you get to the interview processes for internships or full-time jobs. In my experience, most interviews don't expect you to know so much as an entry level or an intern. So when you impress them by showing that you do have just a little bit of knowledge about the industry or the job, it'll really help you stand out. Because ultimately, they're not looking for somebody who knows everything, who can come in and be an expert. They're looking for someone who has the potential that they can shape into a great employee. So do your research and know a little bit about the job so that you can ask really specific questions, kind of using that to flex just a little bit, not over the top, about what you already know and impress them a little bit with your knowledge. And one super easy way to do that is watching videos like these. And I'm not trying to plug myself, this is my first video, like let's be real. But there are tons of channels on here, or blogs, or TikTokers, anybody that is in the publishing industry, posts great content, really educational stuff about the industry that you can learn from. Another example of learning on your own time might just mean diversifying your skills. So for example, I took a lot of graphic design classes in college, and I didn't know anything about graphic design. I never used any of those programs, and I wasn't even really all that interested in it. But in those classes that I took, I designed my logo, I designed my brand, my website. I did all of these things that I use every day that really helped up my professionalism and credibility as a business owner. And I also learned how to use the Adobe programs like InDesign, which has actually been a huge help that I wasn't expecting, because InDesign is, in my opinion, at least where I've worked, the industry standard for creating and formatting these books. So I actually use InDesign every day in my full-time job, and just knowing a little bit of how to use it, even though I'm not designing in it, has really helped me and helped with that learning curve, so I can focus on the more important things that I don't know yet. So that was kind of a rambly video, but that was just a little snippet of my story of how I became an editor and the things that I really felt helped me stand out as I was applying to jobs. And you can see it was honestly a lot of luck. There's a lot of opportunities that were given to me before I even had earned them necessarily. Like I was working with the newsletter as a sophomore, and I don't know what I did as a freshman that made them think I was qualified to do that, because I definitely was not. But yeah, it was a lot of luck, it was a lot of opportunities, and it wasn't easy. I applied to 200 jobs, and I heard back from 3 companies, and I got 1 full-time job offer. I only did a handful of interviews. Basically what I'm saying is I don't have all the answers, obviously, the best way to do it. I wasn't the perfect candidate by any means, because I did only have like 3 or 4 or 5 interviews. But these 3 tips were things that directly correlated to my journey and my success, and are things that could help you in your journey as well. Thank you all for watching. I hope to post more about the publishing industry in the future, so if you have any questions about what it's like to be an editor, what it's like to work in a publishing house, or anything like that, leave them below and I'd be happy to make a video on that. If you are interested in seeing more, like and subscribe, please. It would mean a lot. And like I said, this is my very first video, so if you like and subscribe, you are an OG, and I will appreciate you and remember you forever. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye!